Changes may be coming to a galaxy far, far away. The vision for Kathleen Kennedy perhaps gone so far astray that Disney is ready to bring it back, depending on the performance of one Acolyte. Folks, we're here to tell you they may reform based on how it performs. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we endeavor to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. And keeping you ahead of the culture curve means we report things very early on. We've got a track record. We like it. We hope you like it. And if you do, well, consider clicking this like button. We know one thing's for sure. You all like Lorne Connor very much. You cannot wait for him to be back on the channel. And Lorne returns once again. Sir, how are you today?
Doing really well. Thank you.
Lorne, we've got a rumor so hot, so fresh that we don't have an article to go to it because this is exclusive to the Pro Channel. And so I wanted to have you on to discuss this first, partly because you know Star Wars so well that you can help explain this rumor to me a little bit better, because this is outside of my forte necessarily. And so I'm going to hand this over to you in large part to help me parse out what's happening with Lucasfilm. So, Lorne, I received a very short, terse message in the past few days or hours. And, Lorne, the message is simply this. According to someone who I believe would know these sorts of things, Disney is watching closely how the Acolyte performs on Disney+. And the reason that they are very intensely curious about its ratings is because the Acolyte takes place in the High Republic era. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the High Republic is related to this novel series that was sort of the brainchild of Kathleen Kennedy, and it's not performed so well. And so what I am now hearing, Lorne, is that Disney is ready to jettison the High Republic if the Acolyte also does not do well. And what they would like to do is they would like to focus on the Old Republic. And so that is where they would like to take Star Wars if the Acolyte fails. Now, I think they already might be going in that direction a little bit. But if the Acolyte doesn't do well, I am now hearing that they're ready to go full force into the Old Republic as they continue to look for ways for a soft reset where they don't have to apologize. They don't have to do a full-on mea culpa, but they would very much like to find something in Star Wars that works. Lorne, explain to me, what is the Old Republic? How long is that era? Does this give us some sort of specificity where Disney would want to go? Or is the Old Republic so big and so broad that it's really hard to figure out what they would be interested in doing?
The Old Republic is any period, really, that takes place before the prequel movies, although most of the lore that is explored is around 4,000 years before the movies. Now, it goes back even farther than that to the 30,000-year prior period that Obi-Wan talks to Luke about in Episode 4. That's the Dawn of the Jedi series, and that was a series of comic books. Most of the Old Republic lore was explored in the Tales of the Jedi comics and the Knights of the Old Republic video games, the Old Republic MMO, and the Knights of the Old Republic comic series by John Jackson Miller, which are excellent. So there's a wide swath of time there that you can deal with. This is also the period about 1,000 years before the movies when Darth Bane instituted the rule of two. So there's a lot that they can play with there. But given that this is the one era of Star Wars that's remained essentially unsullied, I think it's really dangerous for them to be thinking about playing in here, because they haven't shown the ability to produce very much at all that the community has accepted. And so I think up to this point, they've been leery of touching this era because fans of this era are incredibly passionate. And if they screw this up, they'll burn the whole thing down. And so they've got to be very, very careful if they're thinking about touching this.
So, Lorne, talk to us about the High Republic then. What differentiates the Old Republic from the High Republic? And the High Republic is obviously kind of teetering right now. Star Wars, if they shift off the High Republic, what does that mean? What era is being left behind?
So I think that the High Republic was developed because they were a little nervous about touching the Old Republic period, and they wanted something sort of Old Republic adjacent. This would still technically be in the Old Republic era, but it's characterized in their canon as being the golden age of the Jedi, when they think that the Sith have been vanquished, the galaxy is at peace. It's a time during which the Republic is engaged in giant public works projects to expand the influence of the core into the Outer Rim territories. This takes place sort of in between when Darth Bane instituted the Rule of Two and the beginning of the Phantom Menace. So you're going anywhere from about 500 years before the Phantom Menace right up until that movie.
I see, I see. And in your assessment, Lorne, has the High Republic sort of been damaged beyond, should they drop it at this point? Have they done such damage that it's just time to exit that era, or is there some redemption that could be had?
I don't know if I would say that it caused damage per se, because they were wise enough to at least tell stories in an era that really hadn't been explored. They took a pocket of the end of the Old Republic period where nothing had been written, so they didn't, at least as far as I know, I don't think they really damaged anything. It's just that I don't think anybody really cared about it. So you'll have some people who may be fans of the property, but they're going to be a minority. I don't think most people are probably familiar with what's going on in this book series, and I would say overall it's just been sort of a flop.
Yes, well, let's take a look now, Lorne, at what reactions are to the Acolyte early. And these are folks who've been given early access. So we always, of course, take this with a grain of salt, because when you receive early access, they're expecting you to sing the praises of whatever it is that you received that access for, lest you not receive more invitations to come back to future things. And so we always have to understand that there's perhaps sometimes, not all times, but often, a silent quid pro quo here. This is an article by Jermaine Lucier from Gizmodo. It says, Star Wars The Acolyte gets rave first reactions. The new Star Wars Disney Plus series starring Amandla Stenberg and Lee Jung-jae debuts June 4th. So, folks, not long from now. Live-action Star Wars is back in a big, big way. Thursday night, Lucasfilm and Disney held their big premiere for Star Wars The Acolyte, the latest Disney Plus show set in a galaxy far, far away. And so far, it sounds like people really, really like it. Funny that, isn't it? IO9 was lucky enough to snag a seat at the Los Angeles event and watch the first 2 episodes of the 8-episode series. Can you imagine, Lauren, being invited to go to some, media, display, and the thing that you're going to see is only 2 episodes? That would be a little disappointing to me to only see 2 episodes that folks are going to see in a few days anyway. Well, IO9 says that they loved it. Let's scroll down here and see. It says, beyond that, you're presented with a very simple, very accessible, character-driven, almost crime procedural about a Jedi Master who tracks down his old apprentice. And, of course, they've seen 2 episodes, so they don't know what's happening. But here are the reactions. And Jermaine Lucier, perhaps, is not the most unbiased person. No fault of Jermaine, but, once you've seen something, you've got to give your thoughts on it. And then we're writing an article about others giving thoughts on it. But Jermaine says, beholden to nothing except being Star Wars The Acolyte soars. It's an interesting, fun, character-driven mystery with real stakes that you care about, bolstered by all the fixings that make it Star Wars. Saw the first 2 episodes and loved them. We've also got Perry. It's been a while since I've seen Perry's stuff. I'm glad to see Perry still out there. Says, I've seen 4 episodes of The Acolyte. Now, how can that be? And thus far, it's a very big winner. The cast of characters, the heavy emphasis on practical effects, the stunts, how they're exploring what it means to be a Force user, and how the Jedi Order operates, working quite well. Daniel Bautista, kind of the same stuff here. You see all of these people dropping very positive takes on The Acolyte. There's Peter Serreta, saw the first 2 episodes, loved it, felt so much like classic Star Wars while still feeling fresh and new. And we've seen a lot of these individuals before, Lorne, doing these sorts of things. I'm not trying to dissuade from believing what they're saying, but we know how this business works, and we're savvy enough to understand the game that's being played. So, Lauren, my question to you is, let's say that this series is phenomenal. And folks, we're going somewhere important with this as part of this conversation. So hang tight. Don't go anywhere. I'm trying to drive towards something I think that really matters. Lauren, if this series is absolutely phenomenal, tremendously good, as these folks are saying, and I'm not there, right? I'll review it, but I'm not there. But if it's tremendously good, you have been so disappointed by Star Wars, you have left the franchise essentially from all the new stuff that's been made. and you now enjoy the classic things, and that brings back good memories. But you're a fan forlorn with everything to do with Star Wars. If it's awesome, would you consider coming back to watch just the series?
So let me say one thing before I get to that, and that is that there is really one Disney Plus series that I do think lived up to my expectations, and that was Andor. I think Andor is excellent. I think it's a fantastic show. And part of the reason for that is that it's grounded in a way through the cinematography. It looks real. You can tell that this is not shot on the volume. And while I think the volume gives you some amazing capabilities, Andor looks real and gritty in a way that none of the other stuff does. That's something that, to me, what I've seen of the Acolyte so far looks like it shares with it. And I think that is a positive. I've already kind of mentioned that I think they're going to be doing some lore breaking stuff in the show that would turn me off immediately. I haven't been a big fan of the costumes. But if they are treating it like a mystery / police procedural, that to me sounds a little bit like Obi-Wan looking for Jango Fett on Camino, and I loved those scenes in Attack of the Clones. I guess I would say I won't subscribe to Disney Plus to watch this, but if I hear positive word of mouth from people that I trust, then I might be willing to go to somebody's house who does have a subscription and maybe watch 1 or 2 episodes and see if it would be worth watching the whole series. But I wouldn't be. I've seen too many bait and switches to trust anything that I'm seeing.
Yes. All right. So let me ask you this then, Lauren. Is it fair to say then that you will be tuning in somewhere, somehow, someplace to Andor season 2?
Yes. Andor earned my trust in such a way that I will watch that series.
So you're not an utterly jaded and bitter Star Wars fan. You're not a heretic tossed outside of the Lucasfilm endeavors. You'll watch good stuff if it happens.
Well, here's the thing, is that there are some very subtle clues in Andor Season 1 that tie into the old EU lore quite extensively, and I have some insight into where they're going for Andor Season 2. That gets me really excited. If they carry that off the way that I think they're going to, Season 2 will definitely be worth the watch.
All right, so here is the big question then, Lauren. This is what I've been trying to get us towards, and I'm fascinated by what you might say. I really don't know what you'll say to this. The Acolyte, of course, the showrunner is Leslie Headland. Leslie Headland, former assistant to one Mr. Weinstein. Leslie Headland, alleged in the lawsuit by Gina Carano to have participated financially in trying to take down Gina Carano. Leslie Headland, probably not sharing the values of many folks out there. Leslie Headland cast her own wife into the show. So nothing against nepotism, folks, if you're Leslie Headland. But Lauren, would you be willing to watch a show made by someone who has been involved in such scurrilous things in the past, especially the Gina issue, especially the Weinstein issue? Do you think the folks out there should give this show a chance? Or must we perhaps consider the artist behind this creation and say, I don't want to participate in much that she does? What are your thoughts on that particular thorny topic to touch?
You're asking me 2 questions here. There's what
yes.
do I feel about it, and what do I think the audience should feel about it?
Take your side first, please.
I don't think that I could ever support somebody who was actively engaged in trying to sabotage somebody who was working on another show. If those rumors are true and Leslie Headland did actually attempt to get Gina fired, that's a no-go for me immediately. That said, though, usually when I'm trying to watch something, this usually pertains to actors, not necessarily showrunners, I do everything that I can to separate the actor from the characters that they're playing or the projects that they're in. There's lots and lots of actors whose politics and public stances on things I absolutely despise, but they are not the character they're playing. The one that immediately comes to mind is Mark Hamill. I like that Mark Hamill has always been accessible to fans of Star Wars. He's very kind and generous with his time. When it comes to politics and his public stances on things, I think the man's an idiot.
Well, he's vitriolic. If he would be less vitriolic, and I have to say, people got mad at him for doing this White House thing. I don't care. There are people, and I don't want to offend anybody out there listening. I don't mind people being political, Lauren. I don't mind that. I don't mind people weighing in. But, you know, I have my own political views. You have your own political views. We don't have to be venomous to others who disagree with us. We don't have to hate them. And so
Right.
when Mark Hamill espouses politics in a positive way for whatever side, so be it, right? It may alienate some fans, and that may be a marketing faux pas. But when he is venomous, and he has been that way so many times, I would not do that to others. You would not do that to others. He should not do that to others. It wipes out his credibility when he's being kind to people. When you know that, oh well, if he knew you were this or that, he would treat you in a much different way. That's what I think has damaged him.
Well, I mean, yes, but I mean, there's two
And
other
he's
things
also
that
an
I
idiot.
keep. There's two other things that I keep in mind when you're talking about these things, and one is that Mark Hamill is not Luke Skywalker. Period. I mean, if you see him in interviews and other things, he's kind of a goofy guy. You know, in that he's a lot more silly and less serious than, say, a Luke Skywalker would be. The other thing is, this is kind of the nature of the internet. When he's saying those venomous, vitriolic things that you're talking about, it's usually relatively anonymously on Twitter. I have a feeling that if you sat down and talked to him about politics in person, he may not like your politics, but I suspect that he might be willing to have a conversation with you. Now, I could be wrong about that. I've never met the
One
guy.
could hope that
But
would be a better thing, a better light for him if that were the case, and for
it,
all of us, by the way.
I only say that because it's like, obviously, I think people know what my politics are. I've worked with several people in different occupations throughout my life who have diametrically opposed politics in the workplace. And yet, these are people that I like and respect, and we've been able to have respectful, argumentative conversations, but they're usually fun and playful. And at the end of the day, we like each other, and that's the way that the country should be. And so I would hope that other people are the same. Obviously, not everyone is going to be, but you hope for the best and expect the worst, I suppose.
All right, Lauren, for the audience then, the audience out there, what do you think is going to be their reaction? Will Star Wars fans come back yet again? Or did season 3 of The Mandalorian, did Lizzo drive them off and they're not coming back? Did the Gina Carano lawsuit really ferment and foment that it's not going to return? What's the audience reaction here, you think?
Well, I'm being as generous as I can, even if the Acolyte was somehow the best thing that's ever been produced. I think it's probably too late. I don't think that the audience comes back for this. You have the millstone of what they've already done with Star Wars up to this point. You have Leslie Headland being the showrunner and everything that's associated with her. Um, I don't think that people, even with positive word of mouth, unless, I mean, if they really somehow hit this out of the park and manage to have some tie-in merchandise that people are interested in, I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. It's you try and give them the benefit of the doubt in the sense that you hope that people are trying to make a good product, but they haven't shown any capability of really being able to do that outside of one or two what feel like flukes. So I wouldn't be optimistic that even if they produce the best product possible, that this is going to reignite the fire of the fan base.
Well, it often feels as if they want to make their own project, but they know that their project would not be successful unless it's under the banner of a pre-existing franchise, and Star Wars is what they've got, so they'll use that. And then what we end up getting is something that is in facade only Star Wars, and behind that is something drastically different than what fans are desiring. Lauren, I've got one final thought for you, and that is, you know, I'm looking at that Gizmodo article again, and as I'm looking through it, Lauren, the Gizmodo article has 12 different media personalities praising the Acolyte. That is a marketing tool, perhaps, but I don't know that it really makes any kind of difference any longer. Do you think there's credibility left in the media, the access media, the legacy media when it comes to Star Wars, or do you think that we've reached the point now where people are so jaded that they're sort of doing what you're doing, which is, I'll wait and hear what people have to say on the first 2 episodes. I might even wait for people to talk to me about the entire show, and then I might maybe give it a go at somebody else's house because I'm not participating in this. Do you think that people the distrust of the media is such that Disney can't play that game anymore?
I think that's maybe too simple. I think that we're polarized into camps. And if you're inclined to be a fan of Disney Star Wars, then you'll believe the access media. If you're not a fan of Disney Star Wars, then you won't. In my case, I wouldn't even think of watching this until the entire series is out. And even then, you'd have to do some really heavy convincing to make me watch this thing. And that's trying to at least praise what does look good to me. You know, it's like I can praise the cinematography. Right now, that's all I know. I have noticed that their tone in the marketing has changed. I did see the video you put up a couple days ago of Amanda Steinberg. Is that her name, Steinberg?
Yes. Being respectful of John Williams and the legacy of the franchise.
And playing a beautiful piece. And I think that I agree with you. That's what Disney should be doing. Respect the material, respect the fans, show the people's her enthusiasm for being in this. That's cool. And I think that that's something that fans want to see. We want to believe that, hey, the people making this thing actually like the property. And that's important.
You just made me realize something, Lauren. You just made me realize, maybe the first time I've ever had this thought. I wonder if Kathleen Kennedy really enjoys being the head of a studio, but really has no desire to be the head of Star Wars. I wonder if that's the case. Well, if she's passionate about her career and her lot at the top of a major studio, but she doesn't care one whit about a galaxy far, far away and having to play inside of George's sandbox.
She's made that very plain many times. When she's been asked directly, you know, were you a fan of Star Wars back then? She said, well, I was a fan of what George achieved. You know,
right.
She's danced around every opportunity to praise the franchise, and it's obvious that she's not a fan and she doesn't care. She wants to do Star Wars in her image.
The idea that you would be a manager of a restaurant and hate the food you serve. How would that go? Folks, I think we know what's happened here. I think there's a simple philosophical problem here that Disney should have identified at the very get-go. And maybe even we should blame a little bit of this on George. He should have not placed her in charge when he did. Who knows? But Lauren, I want to thank you for stopping by and explaining the difference in the Old Republic, the High Republic, what this would mean. And I take what you say to heart. I think there's danger in them going to a new place that's still pristine. But they're running out of places to go, and they're trying to find something that will work. A soft reset, we continue to hear from multiple sources, is on the way for Star Wars. They know they screwed up. They just don't want to say it. But Lauren, you keep doing a fantastic job on your YouTube channel with the EU. Tell the folks out there where they can find you on this great, big, beautiful web.
I'm at Lauren Connor on Twitter, and I am at Lauren Connor 9030 on YouTube. I have been going through and reading most recently Vision of the Future, which is the second book in the Hand of Thrawn duology by Timothy Zahn. People seem to be enjoying that, so if you're interested in the old EU stuff, come give me a look.
And folks, also Lauren is a part of Genre Guys, member-exclusive content here for 2 months, and then he and LW Ghost and Hangry Table, they go on over to T3PO, that pod place, where they, after 2 months, their episodes are ad-sponsored over there, and you can watch them either place you wish. If you're a member here of the channel, check out the Genre Guys releasing weekly. Folks love that content. Folks, we also love having Lauren on. I just want to say before we end the video that Lauren and I were able to spend some time together with the That Park Place conference we held for those who work on the various things we do. And it's an amazing thing to get to meet someone off screen and find out they're even better and more genuine in person. So, folks, you are correct in your assessment of wanting more Lauren on the channel. All right, folks, help us make this channel go wide. Click the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms, it's the notification bell, and drop a comment down below, low. We'd like to know what's on your mind. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Hey everyone, I'm Wilton the Troll, and I got a really important PAF. I just feel it's important to take a moment to reflect on the current slate of Star Wars movie. I mean, we haven't had a woman take the lead on any Star Wars projects whatsoever in Star Wars yet. And that's partly because other women who are leading Star Wars, they don't want to let that happen, which totally isn't stereotypical of women. Am I right, ladies? But here we are, with director Charmin Abinadab Chinook or something. Anyway, she's a woman who's bringing a lot of weight to Star Wars because of her, pedigree. I mean, look at her. And yes, it's time for a woman to lead Star Wars. I mean, thing that has totally worked in every other sphere of life, especially politics. Come on, Hillary Clinton, you tell him that it's time for a woman to smash that patriarchy. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I think it's important for you to know that. Thank you.